That's right. I won't actually show. Actually, I won't actually show that on the stream. So
Right.
there we are live. Been live for a few seconds, but YouTube isn't cooperating. So what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Crypto Campfire podcast. This is the Professor
And Mitch.
And today we've got Tetra Go Commando. But first, Mitch, give us the crypto news from the Crypto Mitch.
Oh, Jesus.
Make something up. Hurry up, quick.
Put it on the spot. Okay, Bitcoin hit 49.
Can't talk about the market. Nope,
48.
Can't talk about the market.
Can't talk about the market. Shit. It was sunny and bright in Michigan today. We had some beautiful weather, dry, no humidity, sun shining all day. Got me a little suntan. Yeah, so that's my crypto news for the day.
I love it. I love it. All right, y'all can't see this, but we're all in little picture frames in our Zoom meeting right now, so it's pretty cool. We were on a shelf, but we can't be on a shelf for the stream, unfortunately, so you don't get to see that. But we'll be on a shelf next time. So just make sure you tune in for Crypto Campfire from the shelf next week. Tetra, what's going on, man? Welcome to the show.
Hey, I appreciate you guys having me here, man. This is really dope.
Yeah, really stoked. Yeah. This is going to be fun. Sorry for kicking it off a little bit late here. This has been a crazy day, a good one, but a crazy day.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
I'm so stoked to sit down and chill out and just have a good chat about, well, I would say NFTs, but I've drugged Mitch through the NFT mud for an hour at a time, several weeks in a row. So we'll get into NFTs, but then we'll take it off topic and we'll get into, like, I don't know. What do you like, Mitch? Trucks?
He said, wait. He said off topic. Welcome to the NFT Crypto Campfire podcast.
That's basically what it's become. Let's not lie.
No.
All right, man. Tetra, let's go back in time. When did you discover the crypto space in general, and how did you get sucked in?
Man, the first time I really heard about crypto, I was probably about 15, 16 years old. It was around the time that I was playing a whole lot of Minecraft. Like that was the pastime. We come back home from school, get on the computer, and that's what we be on. And then, with time, just fucking around on like TeamSpeak and just being active within the community, we always find other stuff going on the internet. And so one of the things was like Bitcoin, and at the time, like Bitcoin was around like $90, $91. And we were just like, yo, what is this? Like we already knew what was up because cryptocurrency, like along with a lot of other things that were already transitioning at the time, we're already feeling like, the digitization of a lot of things was the way to go, because the whole thing with our processes involve us minimizing and making things more efficient. So we just always thought, we could get behind this and just fuck it, use our graphics cards and try to mine what we could. But at that time, when the ASIC miners came out, it was all over for graphics cards. And so that's when we just started trying to mine altcoins for a while with our graphics cards. My 270X died, and I kind of just like hopped off of it for a while. So I was always in and out of like the crypto realm. I was always kept, being kept informed about it and just, staying in the loop of things. But I never invested myself initially. And then this whole thing with NFTs was crazy because I've been trying to find a calling for my digital art for a while. Because I've been doing digital art since I was 12. Like I started when I went to DR and I met one of my cousins for the first time. He was making logos on his computer. I was like, yo, you could draw on the computer? Like, that's crazy. And I took that back home and I downloaded GIMP, and I was like, yo, this is sick. Like, I don't have to be using my notebooks no more. Then like a couple months later, I download Photoshop, and like I torrented Photoshop, and the rest was history. Like ever since that, I just been doing graphics designing for like half my life. But it was really like February where stuff really started kicking off, because that's when I discovered NFTs, and I kind of forgot how I got into it. It was like I think one of my friends was already involved, and I just kind of started dabbling in it, and I wanted to drop one of the cover arts that I was making for my friend at the time as an NFT and see if it would sell. And then that's when I found Aga as well, and I got introduced to a lot of cool people like Daniil, Sir,
Pan the man.
yeah, Vision, and a whole lot of other cool guys over there, and ATM, Dylan.
Yes.
Shout out to Dylan, because he was like one of the first people that I reached out to about, you know, the whole process of getting into this. And I was just kind of nervous because, you know, this was a lot of money to work with at the time. Because I had just gotten my Audius airdrop because I was uploading music there initially. And so I used that, I converted it to Ethereum, and that's what I was buying artwork with. And so I was kind of scared to get my feet wet, but Dylan gave me a lot of tips prior to my first minted piece that, you know, I was forever hold to this day, that have helped me like kickstart getting my art into that realm. And, you know, ever since I got into it, it's just been nothing but growth, and I could not be more grateful for it.
That's awesome, man. It's been cool to watch your success too in the NFT space. Your art's incredible, and you're definitely getting some of the recognition that you deserve, if not enough. You know, I'd say there's definitely more headed your way for sure. And I also want to touch on, you said GIMP, and that made me a little bit happy because it's just super nostalgic. Like the old days of fucking around with GIMP, like, you know, and torrenting Photoshop. We never did that. Never torrented Photoshop. Never. Man, the good old days back in like middle school, like flash drives, 512 megabytes, like floppy disks.
When you could still make the excuse that, you know, you left your flash drive at home for the homework or something.
Exactly. That was I remember around that time I discovered those like the half size CDs, and like little 3-inch ones or whatever they are. I got super excited, and I got them stuck in the library computer like the next day and got in so much trouble. But the media adventure days, let's call it that.
Damn, dude. Could you imagine if Bitcoin was at $90 again? Like,
oh man,
so many people would lose their shit, and I'd be like, yeah, look at this shit, man, gold mine, buy that shit.
Although at the same time, let's think about, okay, so if Bitcoin did go back to $90, would you really be buying
absolutely
more? I'd buy some as a collectible, but that might be the indication that we've moved on to 2.0, you know. Just saying.
I mean, you're probably not wrong, but you know, I'm a wishful thinker.
Yeah, I mean, let's just be real. Bitcoin will be a collectible at some point. I mean, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean, like every technology evolves. And if it ever gets to the point where, and maybe that doesn't happen, you know, maybe we just keep continuing to upgrade this version of the chain, but I don't foresee that being the case. And if Bitcoin does eventually go away and get replaced by its next version, there will be a market for collectible Bitcoins, and who knows what that value will be at that point in time, but there will be some value just from a collectible standpoint. I mean, it's like, you can hold a Bitcoin, you can hold an NFT. It's just a 21 million edition NFT, right? I know you can't distinguish a Bitcoin, but it's a 21 million edition NFT in a way.
I mean, it's kind of like I
don't want to say NFT. That really fucks that statement up, but you know, whatever. You get the point.
It's kind of like a green dollar bill, right? Eventually, that's going to be a collector's item.
Yeah,
it'll be in fucking museums.
Like, I've got one of those.
The crash of the dollar. It'll be lit on fire or some shit.
We should put this fucker in a petri dish and see what happens.
Oh yeah.
Let's not do that. Oh, hey, Tetra, do you remember putting anything in a petri dish from school?
Man, a petri dish.
Did you ever do that?
Cool. I feel like I didn't really get much hands-on projects in science class.
Yeah, we had one time. I only did this one time, but I remember one time they sent us around with Q-tips to swab shit and stick it in a petri dish and see what grew, and it was not pretty. It was not pretty. I don't know how we got on mold and petri dishes. Here we are.
I mean, right? Last I knew, we were talking about Bitcoin never coming back, and then all of a sudden it was a collector's item, and now we're talking about mold. Like, come on! I mean, what the?
This is about as on
scatterbrain.
As you
Holy
could expect
shit.
it to be. This is the best way to do it.
So listen. I heard from Clint,
The grapevine.
that there was a bunch of questions he was asking and other people were asking about NFTs. And I'm curious if you've done any more delving into what his inquisitions were to you. And as far as like NFTs, and speaking of when you have it, right, do you really own something? And, the transaction hash is on the blockchain, but the digital piece that you hold really isn't on the blockchain. So there were some good questions that he was asking. And I don't know a whole lot because it was a brief conversation between him and I, but I'm sure you remember.
You're talking to me?
Yes.
About the conversation on Twitter the other day about where the data is stored and all that?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't done any more looking into it because I answered him, but does that answer your question? Because that's what you asked me.
I mean, the way that it works is kind of like, it's kind of like when you upload like a file or just something up to the blockchain. What essentially happens is that it gets duplicated between different computers that are linked on that same network, and like a piece of it is cached in each of these computers, and at least like 4 other of these computers have the exact same file stored on their chain, like cached on their system, and that's kind of how things can't technically be deleted from the blockchain. That's how we're able to have everything. It's kind of like cloud storage, but seamless among everybody that's connected to this
Exactly.
network.
Right. They're within that previous Genesis block, and they're all kind of interconnected from one block to the next. But you're saying, so this way, this is what completes the actual blockchain transaction, is those computers that have a specific piece of this puzzle, right? I'll put that piece together to come up with that consensus, and then turn around and you actually see the consensus version of those pieces.
And like, cool. you wouldn't have a way to tamper with that, because all of these computers have to confirm that they got the same piece pretty much, and all of the transaction hashes and things like that. It can't be tampered with.
Exactly, unless you can gain 51% or greater of hash power and then roll back the chain and work it back far enough, which, as we all know, that's easier said than done. It has been done. I mean, there's been several instances of 51% attacks on various different chains, but it's once you get to a certain level of decentralization, it becomes very difficult, very difficult. And that's one thing that a lot of people, they look at ETH and they get upset about gas prices, and they immediately jump to another chain that's got no fees. I mean, there's benefits there, but there's trade-offs. I mean, that's the thing about blockchain. Like, you can have a really fast, no fee blockchain, but you're trading it off for security, or strength, the ability to fend off attacks. And at the same time, you could build a really robust, really decentralized chain like Ethereum or Bitcoin, where it's very well distributed. It's very well done. It takes a lot of effort to confirm transactions. It's very difficult to attack it. It's just slow and it's expensive because of the mechanisms you built in. And so there's that big trade-off. Like, if you end up having a faster consensus mechanism, you're trading off by either less confirmations, which means less blocks that you have to roll back before you successfully 51% attack something, or so it's one of those things. Like, there's a lot of pieces behind the scenes that you have to think about when you choose a chain, and there's no perfect one right now. We're still in really early development phases of blockchain. Let's be realistic here. So we got a long ways to go, but I think some of the improvements with ETH 2.0, and of course there's a lot of major developments on other chains right now, like Polygon as a side chain to ETH is crazy. Tezos is doing really good. Wax has been amazing for a long time. I mean, so there's
Solana.
Mirror. What's the one that Top Shop's running on? Flow.
88 Cardano.
Yeah, exactly.
Release their smart contracts.
It's kind of like you get what you pay for, right? It's no different than we are talking about proof of work, proof of stake, stuff like that. And when you look at actual work in everyday life, whatever you purchase, right? The more typically, the more you pay for something, the better the product. So it's kind of like, that cost of transaction is what, like, elaborating on what you were saying, Professor, as far as the security of the network comes from, paying the miners, right? And so that in turn secures the network because they're getting influence to do so.
Exactly.
So yeah, putting it that way makes a lot more sense, I think, for some people that might be new to the space.
Also, Polly's got a question in the YouTube chat here, and he says, what I would like to know is if an NFT is minted on a blockchain such as Ethereum, does that make an NFT worth anymore because of the ridiculous fees and minting fees and etc.? And so the answer to that, based on the wording of your question, is certainly no, but also kind of yes. So no, because of the fees, it's not more valuable. However, there is a psychological factor on the ETH chain and some of those other chains, like in was it Counterparty on Bitcoin? You can mint on Bitcoin, and there's a psychology of higher value, and there's basis in that psychology based on what we just talked about how the chain is more secure and more resilient to hacks and that sort of thing. So there is a lot more faith in the ETH chain, which is why I think people are more willing to pay those high fees and continue working on it. Plus, it's sort of the OG in the NFT space, just because so many projects just started there, and it just took off being kind of, it's like Netscape, right? It wasn't the best browser, but it was what was available. That's what people used. So there's some of that too, but that's, it's kind of a half yes, half no question. There's added value psychologically, but just not directly because of that.
Mm-hmm. One thing I'd like to add to that, people talk about the fees of the Ethereum network and the gas fees and all that stuff, right? So what I've found is that the network is like a highway, right? When you're on the highway going to work and it's rush hour and everybody's trying to get to work at the same time, you get a lot of traffic and it's a very slow go. And so it ends up costing you more in fuel to get to work, right? Which is kind of like more in gas. And it's the same thing with the networks. I mean, if the network is congested due to being rush hour, so to speak, then you're going to spend more in gas fees because it takes longer to get to your destination. And it's a very similar way of looking at it. So I think it's a good analogy, and kind of, because I've done transactions at like 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, and it only cost me a few bucks. Do it at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's like almost 10 times that amount. So does that make sense?
Totally.
Crickets.
All right, Tetra, I'm going to ask you this next question from Polly. Do you think Litecoin NFTs are going to smoke Ethereum in the end?
And Litecoin and NFTs?
Yeah, and I'm assuming what he's referring to is OmniLite just released, which if you're not familiar with that, they've dusted off Omni from the Bitcoin chain, the Omni protocol from way back in the day, and turned it into an NFT situation. So
interesting.
Yeah, right. That's what I thought. Like both ways, interesting.
I feel like nothing. If we're gonna see anything flip Ethereum in the state that it's in right now, then it would be very far down the line when we're at a point where we already see which cryptocurrencies are the ones that we're going to be using like globally when it's fully adapted to our environment, right? So I feel like once we see that time where Bitcoin will finally have its flipping versus Ethereum, I think the lineage will go on the same way, where we'll finally have a currency that could be a viable successor to Ethereum. But I feel like at the same time, like the way that everything had started has such influence that I doubt anything could succeed it unless it was able to kind of fully integrate everything that was already there. So, but these ideas will come along when we actually get to that point, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I think things like OmniLite, and that's certainly not the only example like this. It's just one very specific example. But I think those do a really good job at, easing or appeasing the requests of users of that currency, but don't necessarily do a good job at adding anything to the NFT space, or making an evolution to the protocols that exist. I'm saying that with a grain of salt, in that I haven't researched Omnilight specifically, so I don't want to say that specifically about that protocol platform. But that's kind of the recurring theme that we see a lot, right? And it's not just in NFTs, it's all of crypto and all of the tech industry. It's that sort of thing. You just dust off the same thing and try it again with a new crowd, and off you go. But every once in a while they pull something off and cool stuff happens. We'll see. Mitch, have you I know you're a Litecoin addict, to say the least. Have you done anything with buying?
Whatever,
NFTs?
that dog, come on. The spike coin of the freaking century, Litecoin is right now. Good Lord, that son of a bitch is a tease and a half. No, I sold all of it. Fuck it.
Did you?
I'm out.
Good. I was wondering how long it would fucking take you.
I'm gonna start. I sold it all, and I'm probably gonna end up buying whiskey like Clint Westwood. I think that's the best investment right now.
Sell your Litecoin, buy whiskey.
Yes, exactly.
Not financial advice.
Not at all. Not at all.
It's taste bud advice.
No, I'm just kidding. So the Litecoin network. One of the biggest things I like about the Litecoin network, and I've always used this analogy, is like Bitcoin is, say, your checking account, right? It's your savings account. And Bitcoin is where you hold your value. So it's money that you typically don't touch, right? You just keep adding to it. Whereas Litecoin is more of a checkbook or a expenditure. And it's easy to process. It's really fast. It's easy to transact peer-to-peer, super fast, and really, really cheap to transact in. And it's never been down as a network. So those are probably the biggest things that I find value in Litecoin. The other thing is now the Mimblewimble that's been added, and these other upgrades that it's seen recently. I haven't done too much digging into it myself to really understand what exactly they are. But for the basics, I think Litecoin's a solid value for the long run, for sure. I think it will always hold true to be Litecoin as the silver to Bitcoin's gold.
Yes. I was literally about to say that's how I see Litecoin as well, is that it's the silver to the gold when it comes to Bitcoin. For sure. I mean, come on, the network's never been down, right? And everybody, you probably know, what's the biggest FUD about Litecoin that you know of?
Just probably the Charlie Lee thing, which is the stupidest FUD that there's ever been.
Exactly. No, seriously, when people say, they don't like Litecoin, why? Okay, well, Charlie Lee sold on you guys. And what's your point?
If you don't look at me and tell me that you don't like what they changed about the Bitcoin protocol when creating Litecoin, then we can talk. But if you're going to just say something like, I'd prefer if the founder of the coin didn't own any. Right. That's preferable. I mean, like, I get that it sucked for the people at the time. Like, maybe he didn't go about it in the greatest way. But at the same time, how do you go about that in the greatest way? Right. It is what it is. It's done now. And in the long run, that's ultimately better for the coin.
Well, for sure. And ultimately, all right, let's get to the basics here. We ultimately have to look out for number one. Ourselves are always number one, right? You have to make sure that your future is secured. Now, Charlie created a beautiful, beautiful project and an amazing transactional product, okay? So you can't take that away from him. There's no way you can take that away from him. And then you look at what he did, right? He did nothing more than any of us would have done. He didn't make the price go up to the point where he sold it. He just said, you know what? I don't think it's going to go any higher than this. I'm going to sell some shit. Kudos to him. But as far as crashing the network, crashing the price, I'm sorry, but I see Elon Musk as more of a shit than Charlie Lee will ever be in my book.
Elon Musk can change the market with one tweet more than Charlie Lee could.
What a douchebag, right?
So
all this talk about, well, Charlie sold Litecoin and blah, 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 shit all over you guys. Kiss my ass. He did nothing but great for the community. So bring it. You got an argument? Bring it.
There you go. Fired up the Litecoin, man.
But
All right,
no,
Tetra.
seriously, there's so many
Oh, yeah,
other
go ahead.
tokens out there. There's so many other solid coins out there. I mean, do your research, guys. Don't just take our word for it. Don't take my word for it. Don't take anybody that's
DYOR.
exactly. Don't take anybody. I'm not a maximalist by any means, and I don't think anybody sitting in this room is. So
I'm getting towards being an ETH maximalist, but that's a lie because in
Whatever.
in its very specific use case, ETH maximalist.
well, sure, but I know better.
Yeah, exactly. I certainly can't be a maximalist of anything because it's just like Ethereum and Bitcoin are not competing entities. There are overlaps, but they're not competing entities, and that's just that yet.
Right.
I mean, that can change, but
the only maximalist I am is positivity. So bring it.
there you go. Well, I've got a real important question for Tetra. Right out of the dad joke calendar from August 31st of this year. What type of magazines do cows read?
What type of magazines do cows read? Oh my god.
Town Classics.
Catalogs.
Oh my god.
Good lord, that was bad. Oh my god.
Oh yeah, this should have been the worst dad jokes title calendar. Oh yeah, Dad, what's my blood type? Red. And those aren't even the worst ones. I'll find some of the worst ones and share them on Twitter one of these days. There's some really bad ones that don't even make sense. Like they stretch. They reach really far.
So this penguin walks into a bar.
Oh fuck the penguin.
Yeah.
Oh, the penguin.
Wearing nothing but a cowboy hat. Why is he there and what does he ask for?
Keep in mind, nobody has really answered this question. So
there is no wrong answer. Come on.
Exactly. Mitch has asked it a long time. Most of the time, we don't get any words. So,
that is
all right. Funny. So listen, seriously though, I got one good joke. I think it's pretty decent. I think everybody.
Wait, what was the answer to that?
There's no answer.
There is no answer.
It's a bad question.
Oh my god!
That's what you call a brain tease.
Now you have to make up one, and now you're just going to be hating yourself forever. The first guy we asked that to was David Gochstein way back in the day.
Oh my god!
And like he was so shocked. Like he's like, "What the fuck did you just ask?"
He lost his fucking mind, dude. That was awesome. Oh so my god, he didn't know what to think. But that was like the icebreaker right there. He was like, "Man, these guys are fucked up."
Yeah, it was good. Good days, good times.
So no, this seriously, I say this guy goes into a bar. Walks up to the bartender. He says, "Hey, bartender," he says, "I'll bet you $2,000 I can pull out my left eye." Bartender's like, "All right, you're on." Guy reaches and grabs his eye, pulls it out, throws it on the bar. Bartender's like, "You're crazy." Gives him $2,000. Guy leaves. About a month later, guy comes back in, got a patch over his eye. He says, "Hey, bartender," he says, "I'll give you another I'll bet you another $2,000 I can pull out my right eye." Bartender's like, "Well, that's a no-brainer. You ain't gonna be able to see. You ain't doing that." He says, "You're on." So the guy pulls out his right eye, slams it on the bar. Bartender's like, "Damn, you crazy." Gives him his $2,000. Doesn't see him for like, I don't know, a month and a half. Guy comes in, he's got a walking stick and he's got sunglasses on, blind as a bat. He's sitting at the bar for a while. A little bit later, he walks up to the bartender. He says, "Hey, bartender," he says, "I'll tell you what, I'll give you a chance to win your $4,000 back." Bartender's like, "Oh yeah, how are you going to do that?" He says, "Well, I'll bet you $4,000 you could slide a shot glass down the bar and I'll fill it with piss before it hits the floor." Bartender's like, "Oh man, you're on. I got this." See, he's like waving his hands in front of the guy's face. Guy can't see nothing. He says, "All right, you're on." Guy gets down the end of the bar, pulls his pants down, whips his stuff out, and he's ready, right? Bartender gets the bar all nice and slicked up. And he's like, "I got this son of a bitch." Slides a shot glass down the bar and he's running with it, right? Because he wants to see this thing. Wants to see this guy fill it up with piss before it hits the floor. Next thing you know, guy's pissing all over the place. He's pissing all over the bartender, all over the bar. Bartender's laughing his freaking ass off. So everything gets done. Bartender says, "I got you, man." He says, "Give me your $4,000 or give me my $4,000. Guy's laughing. And bartender says, "Why are you laughing? You just lost $4,000. He says, "Well, I bet the guy down at the end of the bar I could piss all over you and make you laugh."
Jesus Christ. I wouldn't be laughing. But yeah.
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Damn.
Oh,
I
God.
was
I feel like
expecting
you've told
something
that on the
crazy to
podcast
happen
before.
at the end.
I probably did at Westwood or something.
Probably.
In
This
person.
is just a day of like jokes and questions that just leave your mind empty and wanting more at the end.
Campfire foolery.
There we go. Campfire tomfoolery.
Oh man.
It's a
Good times.
tomfoolery, but there ain't no toms in here. So
Tetra foolery.
there you go. There you go.
Okay, so Tetra, what are you working on right now? Let's dig into your artwork a little bit. We haven't got there yet. So what's in the pipes for you?
So what I've been working on, it's been about like three different projects I got going on. One of them was the collaborative series that I already started, and so that's all about the pieces that are currently on Foundation. Those are ones that I collaborated with music artists on, so I could kind of bridge that gap between musical artists and NFTs. And so the idea that I proposed to people that I commissioned for that make music was like, I could turn the cover artwork into an NFT, and I'll invite you to Foundation so I could split the contract. And so that's what I did for those first three pieces. The first two I did the split on the chain. The first one I just had to send the other half on myself. But that's when the idea came along that I could get more invites to just get them on board as well. And so I've been just trying to contact artists that I've worked with in the past and just splitting NFT sales with them on the cover artwork to make that, to me, that's the first form of being able to make royalties off your cover artwork for your music. And I think that's probably the next thing for cover artwork, because I think we're entering an age where it's finally becoming realized that the art that we're making is a big deal. Like a lot of times that's the sole reason why I even click on someone's project, and I feel like with all the haggling and all the ways that graphics designers in the music industry have been looked down upon, it just makes me feel like this is more than reason for why having a good cover artist for a song is a big deal. And so that's pretty much my first project.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I love seeing that. And what you talked about there at the end is really a huge problem. Like, I mean, and it's not just in the music world too, with like the cover art stuff, but in anything where the art isn't necessarily the primary product, right? It's extra, and so it's an expense that we want to minimize, even though it's like what sells the fucking album. We want to minimize that expense so that we can maximize our profit on the music and send that to the music company, right? So like, and it applies so many other places. And with you talked about doing on-chain split, for the royalties and that sort of thing. That's it's just the beginning. Like it's all going to be split out like that, and everything, real-time payments and that sort of shit. Like you do work, and as it sells, you get your cut of it. Like you get your cut from the cover art, and the musician gets his cut, and the producer gets his cut. And like, I mean, we'll be layers deep before we do that, and so it won't really be that black and white, but I mean it's going to be pretty close. It's real-time payments is where things are going. So yeah. But not to get too far off topic, I mean, I love what you're doing with art and music combined, and I like that you're being really fair and really paying attention to how you're doing your royalties and stuff, because that's really the biggest benefit, or one of the biggest benefits about blockchain, is what it offers in that respect. So I love that.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah. What you got? Anything you want to tease a little bit that's coming up? Any drops or anything that?
So I do have a couple of things. Like I was currently working on this piece here. I'll show it on the camera. So I was just working on this today.
Ooh.
And it's just kind of like the first piece that I've worked on in a while. I got the inspiration from watching Baby Keem's recent video with his song Issues, and it just got me. it got me back into the groove of making art again, because I've just been in a slumber. And so I was just working on that today. But I had this other project where I have this 118 elements of emotion, where I have a one-of-one piece for each emotion on this periodic table. It's created by Aidan Mosby. And so essentially, I already have a couple of pieces that are on Foundation already that kind of represent these different elements. Where, my first piece was it was Streets on Fire, and the whole thing with that piece was about protest. It was made during a time that there was a lot of unrest, a lot of things going on during COVID with George Floyd and the protests and everything like that. So I created that piece, in order to kind of represent what was going on at that time. And ever since that was kind of like my first self-expression piece that I've done in a long time. Because a lot of times when I approach art, it's always an objective thing. Like, it's always to make something for someone else. And so when that happened, it was kind of my first step into understanding how to make art for me. And after that, I created a couple of other pieces, and I noticed a pattern in why I create them. Like, I have another piece called The Last Calamity, and that one was kind of like, it was kind of like a really dark time for me, and I felt like I was at the cusp of something bigger than me. And so I left it up to God. And the piece that's being depicted is this one. The whole reason why I created it as such was because it just made me think of a great divide in good and evil, and like this is the last arrow that this angel's about to draw to finally put an end to all the madness that's going on. And so that's kind of how I think through the pieces that I'm making, is that it's always with what I have going on in my mind. And so I just want to do this with all the other emotions that I could depict, that I go through on an everyday basis. And that's pretty much what that next one's going to be.
Love it, man. It's looking beautiful already. There's something about just how the colors in your artwork just pops, and there's so much depth, not just depth of field depth, but like emotional depth, and just feels, like it's just all, and they all feel different, but they all feel aesthetically on track. If you get what I'm saying. Words aren't there what I'm trying to describe, but it's it's very cohesive and yet unique at the same time. So I love your collection.
So
appreciate it, man.
On that note, and speaking of what you were just speaking of, let me ask you this, and it's going to tie into it: Marvel or DC?
Damn. Because for me growing up, man, Batman Begins, the Dark Knight, those were pillars. Those were pillars in my life. Like man, I'm really gonna be a DC guy right now.
All right, fair enough. So then,
I'll be watching more Marvel shows right now. Like WandaVision is crazy. That's probably my favorite Marvel show right now among them all. But I gotta give it to DC because Batman is my guy, man. Batman
right. I'm a Marvel guy myself, but I like both of them, to be honest with you. And I really like the Batman Begins. I like the one with what's that kid's name that died? It's on the tip of my tongue. He was a great actor.
Oh, Heath Ledger?
Yes, Heath Ledger. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So now to tie that all together with your art piece and everything that you were speaking of when you were describing your art, what superpower, if you could possess one, would you choose to have, and what would you use it for?
Wow. If I had Any power in the world, what would it be, and what would I use it for? How would you answer that? How would you answer that?
Okay, so
Ooh,
my
yes,
answer.
yes,
Hmm,
because he asks this shit all the time.
I know, right?
Around on it.
to be honest, as cliche as it sounds, I would have to venture to say I would want the power to create peace within people's hearts, within their minds, and within their souls. And that true harmony could be found based on that level of peace, that inner peace that they have, and that there wouldn't be any hatred in the world. So
Wow.
if I had a power, that would totally be what it is.
Wow. You know, it's crazy because I was thinking like off the top because you know this would be very easy. Like I would probably choose to be able to stop time, like to be in control of time, because you know that's the only thing that can be bought. That's the only thing we would never get back.
But what would be the purpose of that?
Yeah, right. And so that's why I was gonna say, you know, off the top of my head, when I was thinking of a power that I could possess and what I would use it for is like I guess the ability to regrow things. I was thinking like I would want to have the ability to build things from just nothing. Like I always had the vision that I could create a city or something, create a resource-based economy, like create skyscrapers with greenhouses at the top using glass that's all solar panel. Like I want to create a very modern civilization. Like I think the power of regrowth could be something like that, where I could help not only heal people but bring back stuff that we can't get back due to human circumstances from the world.
Right. No, I like that. You know,
It's a good one.
yeah, it totally is. And I think they kind of tie into one another, right? I mean, ultimately, depending on how one uses that power that you would possess, right,
Mhm.
determines the outcome. And, you know, what purpose and would these skyscrapers serve? Like, who would those skyscrapers serve? Would they serve, you know, just the people that could afford them, or would they serve everyone? And I guess that's the true question there, right? And not to say that one's motives would be not, I don't want to say pure, but kind of that, you know, the motives are good and the intentions are good, but any power given to the wrong person in the wrong hands could be used for the wrong thing. So I guess, you know, and that question, to me, that question really signifies somebody's nature. It really signifies where their heart's at, depending on how they choose to answer it, you know, whether it's a serious answer or whether it's a half-hearted answer, just joking around, whatever. But I think most people dig kind of deep when they answer that question, and you did. And so kudos to that. I love it.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you for that.
So now, an even deeper question.
Right? Now that we're off the cliff's edge.
Oh, man.
Tetra, I'm going to need you to choose a body part.
A body part?
Yep.
Here we go.
My ear.
Okay. So Mitch, what kind of object is he replacing his ear with? Category.
Let me see. A spring.
A spring. Oh, you're giving me a specific object. Okay. So now your ear.
this is not how.
It's kind of what I asked, but it's not what I meant to ask.
Okay.
Usually we say, okay, like replace your ear with a
household object.
But now we're doing it this way. So both of your ears have been replaced with fucking springs. What do you do?
like it. This is a
how
good
do you
twist.
take
God.
advantage of this newfound body part?
Damn, I guess I'd have the comfort of banging my head against something now that I don't have no ears.
Oh God,
This sounds like a great visual, to be honest. Of like,
it really does. I mean,
Yeah.
you guys
you're like we're in the perfect box
with
for it and
springs
everything. If we
sticking
just
out
have
of his
springs
head,
here.
bouncing off the walls.
All right, hold on. Somebody get a screenshot and we'll animate this. No, just kidding. That's awesome. I like it. That was a good answer. I like that we accidentally asked the question differently that time. See, that worked out nicely.
How do you guys usually ask that question?
Usually it's either just straight up ask it or whatever, but usually it's like a category and not a specific item. So like if you had to replace your ear with any household object, what object would it be and why? But instead of giving you a specific object or whatever, but it's kind of it prevented the open-ended thinking of having to think of what household objects were and then figure out what you were going to do. You could just kind of come up with a response. That was cool.
Yeah, like
Right.
it could be an automotive object or
Yeah.
could be an office type object or something, from your house, stuff like that. So it's kind of it's a fun question for sure.
Yeah, I like it.
But this was a good twist on it though. I like that. Happy accidents, right?
Exactly. I wonder what Bob Ross would do if his ears were springs.
Ross would tickle it with a brush. We're just gonna tickle it right over
We just
here.
turn the springs into a happy little tree.
Happy little tree, yeah. With happy little birds and happy little branches.
Yeah.
We're happy. Bob
We're
was
happy.
just so happy. He was
Oh, yeah.
always happy. Yeah. I really wish I could get some of whatever he was on. But anyways.
It's all the fucking paint there.
Right? Yeah. Oh, the chemicals from the oil-based paints and stuff. I love it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Man.
man.
That would be that, if I wish, like I'm going to answer that as my superpower right now is that I could just bring Bob Ross on the podcast.
Damn, Bob Ross NFTs, man.
Yeah.
Right? Could you imagine?
The worst part
that-
is if I ever see Bob Ross NFTs, I'm going to be really upset.
Yo,
I'm out. Peace.
Yeah.
I agree.
The sad thing is it won't be long. I'm sure until they start minting them as part of the foundation or whatever. So but anyway,
do you guys see this NFT phenomenon, this NFT craze that's going on right now? How long do you think this is going to last before it actually mellows out and becomes what it was intended to be?
has Bitcoin ever mellowed out and become what it's intended to be?
I mean,
We got a ways to go.
right?
I feel like the way things are going, like it's already an unavoidable topic. Like I already have people intrigued. Like even when I'm making art these days, I have friends that tell me, make that as an NFT if they don't know what I got going on, So it's kind of gonna be here to stay. And I don't think there's a measure to how big NFTs can get because there's so many mediums that we still got to touch upon, like NFTs with film, NFTs with music, and just NFTs with how they associate with the real world, like government issued IDs.
Yes.
Would be so much easier to assign through NFTs. So it's really just a matter of time because it completely changes business models and it just completely changes like institutions for as we know it these days.
Yeah, NFTs go way above and beyond media. It's a really, really cool mechanism that provides some really, really incredible functionality that's going to revolutionize tons of shit. Like so many industries are going to be turned upside down with NFTs or similar types of tech. And I mean, like we don't have enough time to really start. This is one of those subjects that, like, if I get started on this, we're going to be here for another hour because, when you start, we talked about real-time payments and that sort of stuff earlier. When you start coupling that with NFTs and for ownership or identification or, verification, authentication, all sorts of these things, like
Concert tickets
is a very,
huge
those sort of
one.
things, redeemables, right? In general.
Yes.
Like everything has an application for some sort of whether it's NFT or even just fungible tokens, there's an application for this somewhere in every industry. So I just can't wait to see what the next 5 years have to bring. Art's the big thing right now, is because it's what people can relate with. Everybody knows what a painting is, and they can understand enough that, well, you can sort of put this painting on a thing called a blockchain, which I kind of think I understand, and I think I can see it as digital art, and mostly people are buying it, so it must be legit. And that's kind of the mindset of the general, outside of the crypto space right now. It's their thing that they can relate with. They've never been able to really understand what the hell crypto is, right? Because you still couldn't see it. And now NFTs brings a visual aspect to crypto that didn't exist before, and that sucks people in really hard, which is why we've seen this mass adoption. Like, it's just, everybody can relate with music or art in some way or another. And here we are. So, the next, like we talked about, is those other use cases, and those are coming up once people start looking outside of the art world. It's going to be fun.
Mm-hmm. And it's going to be fast.
Real fast, overnight.
Mm-hmm.
Like a spike. It's going to be really cool.
Catch the rocket.
That's right. Catch the rocket.
Cool, man. Well, it's been amazing having you on the show. I really wish we didn't have to cut this short, because, like I say, we're getting to topics that we could talk about for another hour. But I suppose we should probably start wrapping it up here. Mitch,
hey, before
I gotta go eat.
Before we get off, if you guys don't mind.
Yeah. Mitch.
So Christmas is coming up, and last year we did a fundraiser. I did a fundraiser on Twitter, and the community put together a nice chunk of money that we used to help a veteran in Illinois, a disabled veteran. And so this year I'm looking to do the same thing again. My goal is a little bit loftier. I'd like to see us get to like 60 grand. Right now, I think we have maybe 2,000 in the fundraiser wallet. And so I have the squiggle from Art Blocks and that he gave us. Yeah. And so I have that listed on OpenSea right now. Excuse me. And so I decided that because that was a gift, that whatever it sells for, I'm going to end up taking that money and putting it towards this fundraiser for next Christmas. I guess I'm struggling coming up with the name of it, but everybody says Mitchmas sounds really cool. So we're going to have a Merry Mitchmas, and we're going to do some amazing things for some much needed families, and hopefully give some people that normally wouldn't have it a really good Christmas. So if y'all are interested, hit me up on Twitter, Cuss Carptree, and keep an eye out for the tweets that come about for this fundraiser. And everything is transparent. And the best part about it is that everybody that gives, everybody that's on Twitter sees the fruits of their generosity. They get to witness the delivery. They get to witness the people's faces, the excitement that comes from giving to somebody that you can't normally get through a normal charity, right? Normal charities, you're like, okay, yeah, act of hope, whatever it is, you give them money and that's all you ever see of it. Whereas this is something you actually give a piece of you and you get to see the joy it brings somebody else. And I think that's what really sets it apart from all those other things. So if you're interested, hit me up. Like I said, doesn't matter, $5, $10, crypto, whatever you guys want to donate. I keep the wallet, keep it all logged, everything like that. And then hopefully we can find I'm sure there's no shortage of people that would need it come Christmas time. So
there you go. Mitchmas, everybody.
Right on.
Shout out to Snowfro. Got the squiggle rocking.
Hell yeah.
Tetra, you got any last minute shills? Anything you want to throw out there before we wrap up today?
No, I mean, I appreciate you guys having me, man, because this was really cool. This is actually my first podcast I've ever been on. So, I'm real thankful for you guys to have me. Thank you, man.
We'll definitely have to do this again for sure. There's so much more that we could get into.
Hell yeah. You did great, man. You did really good. It's awesome when you have somebody that, has a gift of speaking and can put it out there. So kudos to you. This was a great episode. I really enjoyed it.
Hell yeah.
Thank you so much for that, guys.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
And guys, thank you so much for watching the show. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope you enjoyed our conversations tonight and even our little bit of silly slapstick humor. And until next time, you guys have yourselves a great one. Like we always say, if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have a podcast. We wouldn't have a show. Thank you so much for your support. And make sure you smash that like button and subscribe for our turn notifications on, and keep an eye out for more releases. Till next time, you guys have yourselves a good one.
Take it easy.
Peace.